Hi everyone, welcome to the Reducing Costs lecture, where we're going to discuss controlling debt and expenses. So let's take a look at our lecture goals and make sure we stay on track during this lecture. First, we're going to identify areas to lower costs. And then second, we're also going to identify the number one way to reduce debt. So first of all, looking at lowering costs. The percentages are key. If you remember, on the very first page or tab of your spreadsheet, we had a summary sheet, and it incorporated a lot of these sections. We had our percentages section, we had our pie chart that shows the actual percentages, and your budget versus actual percentages chart. So all of these are taking your budgeted amount in your recommended percentage column. It's taking your budgeted amount and it's dividing or determining what the percentage of your income is being used for that expense. And it's identifying that percentage. And it's also doing the same thing for your actual percentages. So if you're actually using the third tab of your spreadsheet, which is your transactions sheet, to input all of the transactions that come in and from your bank account, it's going to help identify what your actual percentages are. So that means the percentage of your income that is going towards those expenses that are actually going, not just budgeted, what's actually going towards your income. So those two things are very vital in being able to identify very quickly areas that you can lower costs. So a lot of times when our budgets are a little bit out of whack and we've got a lot of expenses, this is what's happening. Your actual percentages are greater than your recommended percentages. So what we want is we want your actual to be less than your recommended. So that means less than or equal to be honest. That means that you're not overspending in a certain category, such as in this situation. It looks like our first thing that we are overextending ourselves in is our utilities. And we're spending 6% of our income on utilities versus the recommended 5%. Now, that's not a huge thing. When you start getting into the 2 to 3% higher than your recommended, those are areas you can definitely make changes on. But this is the way you can look at it. You can say, okay, I'm going to go down my actual percentages column and I'm going to identify, okay, I'm spending more in utilities than I should. I'm spending more in food than I should. I'm spending more in insurance and personal. That's a huge one. I'm spending more in savings. So the savings situation is totally up to you. That's a luxury in a way, but I definitely recommend keeping a savings going. So you have your emergency savings and you have just the savings for whatever you need to have it, even bailing you out if you have a rough month where you weren't expecting an expense to come through. But the thing that would concern me greatly about this percentages chart is the personal. It is 3% higher in the actual than what they recommend. So that would definitely be an area that we could reallocate to something that, may need it. We're obviously not spending, as much as we need to on like our home expenses, which that means you may actually be able to live in a little bit better place if you just kind of reallocated your money. But the most important thing is just to make sure that your recommended percentage is higher than the actual or at least equal to, okay? So let's look at reducing debt. Now, there are two different types of debt, but debt is not bad. It's really just the type of debt that's important. So let's take a look at, what type of debt there is. There's debt that does not bring you income. So this is something like your credit card payment, or if you have a personal loan, that's not bringing you any kind of income. It's actually not doing much for you at all. You couldn't sell your credit card bill to somebody and make more, or at least what you owe on it, to somebody. Nobody's going to do that. You can't just transfer that debt. So that's, in my opinion, for lack of a better way to say this, a bad debt. It's not doing anything for you. So it's a kind of debt you don't really want a lot of. Then you have the other side of it. You have the debt that can bring you income. So such as a home. You want something that's going to, not depreciate in value, meaning go down in value. So, a car, you're never, if you buy a new car, you're never going to be able to make more on it than when you bought it, because immediately it starts depreciating as soon as you pull it off the lot. So I wouldn't even consider a car being in this category. This is more the home situation. If you buy a home, if you put a little work into it, or the neighborhood gets a little better, you can get more out of it than maybe you bought it for. But traditionally, most of the time you look to at least get out what you owe on it, or at least get out of what you paid for it. So that's the ideal situation with a home, is you want to make sure that you actually could sell it and make something from it. The other situation with a home is income. If it's a rental property, it's basically you're allowing somebody to live there. They're paying you to live there, which means you could turn right around and either pay off the mortgage, or you can say, hey, this is income, so I can not have to work as hard, or I can live in a little bit better place because now I have the added income if I don't own the home. So this is what I would consider a good debt. But what we're going to look at right now is reducing the bad debt situations, that debt that's not bringing you any income. So we want to basically pay down our debt as quickly as possible. The best way I know how to do that is by snowballing. And this is what the number one way to reduce your debt is. I know a lot of people don't know what snowballing is, so let me run you through it really quickly. Now, say we have 3 different credit cards that we owe on and that we have to pay on, right? Traditionally, we look at our balances, and as we make our payments, our balances just make a gradual decline, as long as we're not putting added amounts onto it. So it doesn't happen really fast. Usually it's fairly slow. And if you have interest that you owe on those cards, a lot of what you're paying is going towards your interest and not your balance. So we want to basically look at finding the lowest balance due, or the one with the highest interest, and paying those off as fast as we can. So once we can actually, if that means you can put a little bit of extra towards that one just to try to get it paid off quickly, then do that. But basically, we're looking to get rid of one of those credit cards by paying it off. So if we pay that off, our next month, we literally only have, 2 credit cards to pay on. But what happens if we took the payment from that 3rd credit card and we put it onto one of those other 2 cards? We basically compounded it by 2. We have twice the payment that we're making on that one credit card. And so our balance goes down like this light green line does a lot faster than if we were just making the same payment on that one, right? That would mean we're actually going to be able to pay this credit card off a lot faster than we were before. That's a huge thing. So what happens for that in that 3rd situation? We only have one credit card to pay on, obviously. We take the payment from the first 2 credit cards, put it on that 3rd. Now we're paying 3 times as much on that card. That balance is going down very quickly at this point. This is what snowballing is. It's basically saying, I'm going to create myself a budget for paying off my debt, and then I'm going to pay off as much as of one of those as I can as quickly as possible, and then use that money that I was spending on that and put it on another one, so that one goes down very quickly. It's just a cycle that you could really get rid of your debt very quickly if you proceed this way. A lot of people tend to pay either minimum payments, or they look at a situation like if they were able to pay off a credit card, now they've got added money they can spend on something else. If you don't look at it like that, and you look at saying, okay, I had this much for a budget, and now I'm just kind of reallocating it to really focus in on the next card that I need to pay off and get that paid off so that I can do the same thing to the 3rd. It's a very, very cool idea that I've actually personally used and have paid down thousands of dollars of debt through this process. So it's a tried and true method, and I'd highly, highly recommend it. So let's take a look at our lecture goals and make sure we actually did everything we were supposed to do. First of all, we were trying to identify areas to lower our costs. We definitely did that one. And we looked at what the number one way of reducing debt is, and that is snowballing. I hope you guys have really enjoyed this course. I've enjoyed teaching it. This lecture was, like I said, one of my favorite lectures to do. And the reason why is because I love the idea of snowballing. And because of that, I'm actually doing a new course specifically on snowballing debt so that you can become financially free. If you guys are interested in this, please, look down in the resources section for our website. It's basically going to take you to a page where you can put your email address in so that I can notify you as soon as that course is available and you don't miss it in amongst all the other courses out there in Udemy. So if you are interested in taking a look at how to become financially free and reducing your debt and really not being bound by the debt that we have in our lives, and you're interested in that course, please go over to that website. Now, I am offering a special deal, which I will talk about in the next lecture, which is just basically my thank you, but I have a special thank you gift to you if you do review this course. So make sure you look at that next lecture and don't just X out of this. I hope you guys have enjoyed this, and like I said, I've enjoyed it immensely, and I will see you in the next lecture. Bye, guys.